All right. Good afternoon, guys on the East Coast. Good morning on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And as always, if you have seen our last few promos of shows that we have today, we have some awesome shows for you guys to enjoy today. First and foremost, we have the first show for today, just basically going over a recap of Baltimore Comic Con, the live edition or the virtual edition, if you will. Give me a few moments while I introduce our guest hosts for today. All right, so first up, I want to introduce, they are a 18-year veteran of the comics industry, bringing their talents as an illustrator as well as self-published. So I would like to introduce Sean Forney. Give me 1 second. Hello, Sean. Hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going well, man. It's going well. All right. So our next guests, they are they're a multi award-winning artist and writer for Archie Comics. So I want to give an introduction to Mr. Dan Parent. Let me bring him on. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, how are you? How's it going?
I'm good. Good to have you back.
Good to be back.
So last but not least, I have she is the co-creator of the website known as Pulp Culture Squad. She's also the chief and editor of that website. I want to get an introduction to Adriane Nash. Give me 1 moment. Bring it on, Adriane. Hey.
Hey.
All right. So thank you guys so much for squeezing out some time, guys, to just give a recap of Baltimore Comic Con. Now that the dust has settled a bit of us having that virtual show, I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it and having each of you all on, because you bring a unique angle to it based on where you fall within the industry, whether it's a fellow journo, whether it's artist, someone that is there as a guest on the artist end. So before I hop into that, I'm gonna embarrass you a little bit and say happy birthday to. So happy birthday, Adriane. I want to surprise you on here and not over social media. So happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
But with that being said, guys, getting that out of the way, I had to embarrass you a little bit, Adriane. Sorry. Can you guys tell me how have things been? Because we've had an interesting year, just in general thus far, with con season and how I've touched base with each of you at some point throughout this over this year about a given show and adjusting and making that pivot to the virtual shows that have been happening versus the live ones. And either one of you can start. Tell you what, birthday go.
Oh God. Okay. Well, I mean, it's obviously very different for me. Just as a journalist, it seems like you've taken really great advantage. You've gotten tons of interviews and really been like going crazy during this. It's you've shown that it's what to do when you can't go and see people in person. I can't imagine what it's like for like an artist who makes a good chunk of their cash selling art at cons when stuff like this happens. So,
definitely. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, well, it's been quite interesting. So I usually do like 20-25 shows a year. So, but it's I've done a couple of virtual shows. I've just been doing really a lot more like commissions and things like that from home, because people are really missing the shows. So they sort of are emptying their pocketbooks a little bit, because they're like, well, I can't travel to the shows, but I still want commissions. So they contact me, and it's good. I mean, I do miss some of the travel, but it's all right. It's okay to kind of chill out for a while. I know the shows will be back next year, or hopefully next year. So you know, it's good, and it just gave me time to work on more projects at home, like Kickstarters and things like that. So it does free you up to work on other stuff.
Indeed, and that is actually a perfect segue for you, Sean.
Yeah, very much in line with what Dan just said there. I've been doing a bunch of commissions from home, been doing like the live sales through social media. And like you mentioned there, and you said perfect segue, is we launched a Kickstarter. We've got like a week left on it. So we've been doing that. It kind of bumped up our schedule in a way to afford us the time to do that with, not traveling to all the conventions. So yeah, we're trying to make the best of it.
Indeed. And as I said, just hopping right into Baltimore Comic Con, it's a show that I've been fortunate to go in person more than one time. I know each of you have as well. So in speaking to that, can you talk about just now more specifically having the virtual edition of Baltimore Comic Con this year versus having a physical one?
Question. I can hear you, but I can't hear anybody else. I don't know.
Okay, no
is that from my
worries.
end or from your end?
It might just be on your end, but I tell you what, since that's the case, I believe everyone else is good to go. I'll have you start off on that question.
Okay, so what was the question again?
So just in general about Baltimore Comic Con and making specifically for that show, making the pivot of doing the virtual edition versus a physical one.
Well, as far as the virtual edition, I'm not like set up at Baltimore this year. I've just been attending it, sort of checking it out from that end, and that's kind of fun. It's kind of cool to see what everyone else is doing. So the spirit is definitely there for Baltimore, which is nice. There's some, listen, it really it shows people's creativity because they're learning how to do new ways of getting their stuff out there. So it's cool. It's really cool. I'm enjoying it.
Well, I think it's cool because fans can experience it rather than having to be there. They can go check it out kind of at their leisure. They can, make their way through the 8 hours of footage or find the video of the specific panels that they want to see without having to make a trek to Baltimore. That's the pros about it. The cons are, there's something about being in a room for a panel. So you're not really watching just someone interview somebody else. It's the vibe. A good moderator will be able to bring the room into the experience as much as just it being two guys talking to each other.
Indeed. And it's funny you were bringing up just the content aspect and that idea of having the panels being done online. I know and we've had with part one of this show, it was fascinating to hear the perspective. And good, looks like we have Sean back. Give me 1 second, bring him back on. Lost him for a second. All right, you back?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, no, so it's perfect time. And I was just we were just hopping into just what our thoughts were on this year's virtual edition. I know I believe you were doing Artist Alley, in a virtual capacity. So can you talk a bit about that before I hop into what I was going to say?
Sure. Artist Alley was basically just a list of artists, and they allowed us to put up our website web store. But what I got to participate in, actually, being part of the con virtually, was doing the Hero Initiative Drink and Draw. And Adriane mentioned the like that virtual experience where you get to actually interact with folks. And there were, I think, a total of 10 different artists that participated. And we sketched for a couple hours doing sketches for Hero Initiative that people had paid X amount of dollars to have us draw on a coaster. But we actually all got to interact more so than we would if we would have been in person and trying to do it late night at the hotel bar. They had 2 hours of us all just goofing around, having fun. At some point, 3 of us were pulling out guitars and showing those off while we were on camera. So it was just a fun, neat little experience that the whole virtual thing afforded us to do.
Gotcha. So I guess what for you return with us, Sean, I was saying the thing that was interesting is in that it you think about it, but it is true. With one of the other journals that we had on in part one of this show was talking about how having these virtual panels, it was interesting because a lot of times you have questions that are, I'm not going to say superfluous, but sometimes it could be unnecessary, and it stretches out the panels and doesn't allow everyone to maximize the questions that they perhaps want to ask. So by having these virtual panels, and I don't know if you can attest to this as well, Adriane, that idea of being able to enjoy the content that's being provided by the guests that's there to speak about whichever project they're doing, and having an opportunity to still enjoy it without it getting sidetracked by questions that
The
can become
Q&A
unnecessary.
portion sometimes really kills the rhythm, or no, absolutely. And my big thing, I always love hearing about creative people's their process, and a lot of the panels I saw this year dealt with like you've got King interviewing Gibbons, and it's like they're geeking out on each other, and but they're also discuss what's your process versus how I do it, and that I found really, really interesting. And that's not necessarily a conversation that would have happened in a panel room, or it wouldn't have gone as in deep or as long, because they want to move along to something that maybe the room wants to hear about, or when you turn it over to the audience, sometimes the questions are really long and rambling, and why did you do this one thing in this one issue this one time, and not is of interest to everyone in the room.
Indeed, and another facet of that, because we actually had a Ringo nominated artist in part one of our show, is obviously the Ringos that we had going. So for each of you, can you talk a bit about that, and how it was interesting to have that happen virtually versus being among your contemporaries and your peers for a show like that? Whoever like to go. You like to go, Dan first?
Well, I didn't see the Ringos this year, but
Okay.
it is. I guess that's the one thing that's probably a little. If there's a disappointment factor of having to do something virtual, maybe award. The thing about awards that are fun is you get to kind of hang out with your friends and get a little attention in person, and it's more of a party. So maybe that's that's the one thing that suffers a little bit virtually, because I guess getting award virtually probably is a not quite as exciting. But what are you going to do, right?
Indeed. Sean?
I didn't get to watch it or really follow along too much, other than a friend of mine was up for a couple of awards, and I just kind of got to see his play-by-play on Facebook, waiting, because he did a couple of pre-interviews and things like that. He unfortunately did not win, but it was neat to see all the excitement surrounding what he was going for, and everybody kind of rallying behind him. But I unfortunately didn't get to catch the rest of it just because of the crazy work schedule I've had here lately. But I can agree with Dan. It does kind of take some of that a little bit of the fun out of it, because you're not getting to see somebody go up there and accept it and be in person, and all the stuff that would happen in person as opposed to virtual. But it's what we were left with for the year.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, Adriane, I know you guys had a virtual show to try to kind of to still imagine having it in person. So can you talk a bit about that and how that was?
In fact, I missed my own company's Ringo party.
Okay, all right.
I didn't get home in time for it. And I didn't watch the Ringos afterwards either, because I knew who won. It is such a big it's a party. You go to the party and celebrate your friends. And then if you did, it's like, do you TiVo the Academy Awards? Like, you know who won. If the speech is worth checking out, you'll find that. But yeah, the Ringos is the one kind of thing where it's like, oh, they handed out awards. Okay, did my friends win? Yes, no, yes.
Gotcha. And all right, so just moving on from Baltimore Comic Con in and of itself, we're still in a questionable place, obviously, in terms of where things are going to go next year. Will we be able to go into our live shows, or will we be able to do in-person shows? Will we not be able to? Will we go back to being virtual? But even despite all of that, whether it's been with cons, whether it's been with festivals, an interesting capacity or interesting thing to discuss is, what things do we picture going forward just with our cons? And I would love to know each of your thoughts on this. Where are some things that you see would possibly continue in the facet that we had this year, based on things that were tested out by a lot of the shows that we enjoy, that they may keep, or what are some things that may change, may go back to normal and go back to the way that we're accustomed?
Well, obviously. Go ahead.
I think that it's going to be like a slow, slow rolling out process for shows again. I think they're going to see them next year. I'm actually signed up for a couple of shows. Like, I'm actually signed up for Alaska Comic Con in February, end of February. So we're sort of like, how can we do? We're sure we can do it, but we're like, okay, it's in Alaska, so it's a part of the U.S., so we can still go there. They'll allow us in. I did the show in Fairbanks last year. Now, it was a show of a few thousand people in a very big convention area. So the spacing seems right. We can social distance. So I think even though the pandemic will probably still be going on, hopefully it'll be less at that point. We're thinking we can still do it. And I do know, like, I was signed up for, what was it? Awesome Con was going to be in March, I think. And they moved that up to like June or July. So some of the spring shows are already starting to, I think, feel the panic a little bit. Or phone rang there. Okay. So I think you're going to see smaller shows coming back. And I think with, as far as like, say San Diego makes it back next year, you're going to see a lot of mask wearing, because if San Diego manages to come back, the pandemic will still be fresh. It'll still be going on to some degree. So there's going to be a lot of like precautions still be going on next year, which is fine, which is the way it should be.
Indeed. Adriane?
Yeah, I definitely think that all of next year everybody will still be wearing masks. That's still going to be a thing, even if they come up with a vaccine in the spring. But I think that the larger cons and all over, like all industries really have figured out that if they can monetize it by putting it online, they're not going to give up that money now. They've learned that people will pay to watch a panel. There will be like now a virtual ticket even to go to the physical, if they have a physical San Diego. I think now it's a way to get stuff out to the audience, and that stuff was online almost immediately anyways at this point. And like a convention you can kind of space out, but like unless you're going to do a concert in a bubble, like I think that we're going to have live music is going to be online it's still going to be virtual for a while, because beer and music doesn't usually lend itself to quiet talking and social distancing.
Not at all. Yeah.
So, and I mean, like, I have health concerns about having conventions too soon. Like the last thing we want to do is have a super spreader event, but at the same time, like, I miss conventions. I miss seeing my friends. I miss the hijinks of just what cons or music festivals are.
Definitely. Sean?
Yeah, I definitely have some reservations about doing conventions next year because, just personal health stuff. But I miss seeing all my friends, both sides of the table. I miss all the crazy interactions, the bar con type stuff, all that. So I, definitely have an itch to get back to them at some point when I feel comfortable doing it. And with talking with a buddy of mine who's a convention promoter, that we spent a good length of it last weekend doing a virtual version of his con. There's a lot of stuff that's going to come into play that everybody's mentioned already, but once it feels safe to go to a con, be actually spread out, as I'm sure all of us have experienced a con where your table is right next to the person and you've got no room to get in and out behind your table and all that stuff. Hopefully some of that gets alleviated, and all the extra safety precautions, the PPE, all that kind of craziness. As long as cons are following that and following any other kind of guidelines that may come into place in the next year, it'll probably be a slow roll to get back to where we used to be at cons. I don't think we'll probably see like the big sellout type stuff that we normally would, but I could be completely wrong on that too. I mean, everybody's got that itch to go and get to a con and participate in some way, whether you're a fan and going and getting autographs or getting artwork or whatever it is. Everybody's got that just drive to go do that. So maybe cons will be busier than they ever been.
Definitely. And actually, Dan, I want to hop back on to something you were saying just a tad bit earlier. You were saying that you picture that a lot of smaller cons would make a comeback. And in what you were saying about that, would you say it's more so just by virtue of just the passion just to have more shows, or based on other circumstances? Because I know on some ends with some folks I've spoken with, they foresee that maybe smaller cons may not survive it just based on resources, because they can't withstand holding out that long. Instead of their bigger show cousins. So
right. Well, I think it really depends. Like I'm actually going to do a Richmond show in a few weeks in Richmond, Virginia. So I know he did a show. My friend Brett did a show a couple months ago. Again, it was total. Everybody had to wear masks, social distance. It was like a half the normal attendance, maybe if that. But he was able to pull it off, and no repercussions. I don't think there was any known spread from it or anything. So I think he really was very careful to try it out. And I've seen a few other, even like some in like local, I'm in Pennsylvania, but in New Jersey, I've seen some like local shows that they do, like these comic shows where they're very small, but they've been just doing them with masks. Again, they're very, very small, but that's the thing. I know that a couple people, I know people that work in the comic book promotion, industry who that's a tough one because they're paid to promote and they work for the the artist alley. They work for, they deal with the talent, and they're all pretty much laid off right now. So something like San Diego can survive because they're like a nonprofit anyway, so they'll be fine. But I know some promoters and some guys who do shows who are like, I need to I need to start doing shows again to make a living. But we're going to see certain shows like, if you're a Reed Pop, you can probably afford to eat it a little bit, take it on the, miss a show here and there. But probably these mid-level shows that are still kind of like homegrown, they don't have a big, parent company working for them or owning them. That might be tough. I could see that being tough. But again, this is all going to be driven by how fast we want to get back to these. It's a lot of it has just to do with really where we are. If there's a vaccine that rolls out in January and we're like people are, even the knowledge of a vaccine, also people taking it will change people's mindsets. So maybe by spring people will be like, I feel more comfortable. There's so many factors, but again, we'll see it. I just hope that not too many of the small to mid shows go under because of it.
It'll be interesting to see. It might cause like cons to go back to small, like Holiday Inn ballroom type things for a little while to grow back up, where you only have a couple local retailers and some local talent, and the big media extravaganza that like Reed and San Diego put on will have to be on hold because we can't put 100,000 people in a room right now. But we'll see. I mean, and Dan's right. Like Reed can hold on. I mean, they're in a giant company. I mean, they might be doing horrible because all they do is they're a giant company that puts on conventions for all different fields. But yeah, San Diego will be okay. And, I worry about Baltimore.
Yes.
It's my favorite con.
Yeah, definitely.
Comics focused.
Definitely. So with that being said, guys, I want to be able to close it off. Just your final thoughts, and also, if there are like some upcoming projects that you guys would like to shed light on, or that you're able to share. Sean, I know that you had cut off just momentarily, so I'm gonna, punt the ball to you first.
Okay. So yeah, I've got a Kickstarter running currently. I've got a week left. It's Scarlet's Field Guide to Cryptids and Other Creatures. We're funded.
I'll put on the link. Go ahead.
Thank you. We've hit like 8 stretch goals so far, so we're hoping to knock out a couple more in the next week so that we can get everybody all those free goodies. And follow me on social media. Almost all my social media is at Sean Forney Art, like there on the screen. My Facebook page is Sean Forney Illustration, and hopefully things will turn around here in the next 6 months or whatever, when we get back to cons. Hopefully get to see everybody in person once again. Look forward to that kind of stuff.
Definitely. Dan?
Yeah, just speaking of Kickstarters, we fulfilled our Die Kitty Die Kickstarter a few months ago. Now we're just getting the books in. They'll be coming in a couple of weeks. And the some of the other Kickstarter goodies that we had are coming in now. So we'll be mailing those out next month. As far as Archie goes, I'm still just doing my regular Archie projects. We're going to be announcing a couple new books soon, so just stay tuned for that. And I'm still just doing a lot of like commissions and things like that too. So it's all good, keeping busy. And you can find me at danparent.com, or check out the Die Kitty Die website at diekittydie.com. And I'm easy to find.
Cool beans.
I don't have any giant projects, so check out these guys' Kickstarters and successful Kickstarters. And Pop Culture Squad churns out content as it can.
Absolutely. So I want to thank you guys again. Thank you for, as I said, carving out some time to share your thoughts and your insight on the virtual Baltimore Comic Con that we had this year. I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, which you are watching now, live streamed. But we do encore a lot of our episodes on YouTube. You can find us also on Twitter at Moving Shake UNLTD, on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited, and of course, me, Brandon Choi ENT, on Twitter, and Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. So there you guys have it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, everyone. And I will see you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.